Winnick. This is Super Tuesday, and we're here tonight with Only in America, Mr. Don King, who will give us his political viewpoints from Only in America on the 10 main concerns of the American people on Super Tuesday. Mr. King, the 10 main concerns of the American people, we would love for you to address and give us your viewpoint of how you feel and what the American people would really like to hear from these candidates. Number one, jobs.
That is what the whole thing is. The essence of this, of America, is jobs, 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 and jobs, and jobs. What we need to do is to find ways and means to have jobs, and if the President and the Congress would just adopt a program for the needy families, white and black alike, that are lost their jobs and that their houses are being foreclosed on, and they have 2 jobs in the family, the wife and the husband to work for either or, vice versa. They find themselves in a strait where they have to go to the pantry. And this is something that white Americans are doing now, going to the pantry trying to find one way or another to find ways to make ends meet. You know, it used to be that you could blame it on someone else and you could use a minority group and classify them as the cause of your problem. But that no longer exists today. The American people are much too wise for that. So we got to find ways and means to get people to have jobs, stop losing their homes and using the ideas that, you know, you can talk about everything else but what concerns the American people. And they say the economy is bad, then let's say FDR. FDR came up and made something where you were building bridges, fixing roads. Give these people, what's the difference of being another $1 trillion in the hole if you're already 16 or 17 a trillion in the hole? Get $1 trillion to feed the people while they work, while you're trying to find ways and means to amortize that debt and to bring a balanced budget. But in the process, don't make the American people starve in the process, lose their home, lose their stature and esteem, while you keep looking and talking about what you're going to do if something else happens. When you see the Congress is at a stalemate, no one wants to help anyone, which means the American people are the losers.
Mr. King, you mentioned homes, but right now, the American people are frightened. We've never seen in the history of our country such a disaster with the American dream of the homes. The homes was the thing that every child that got married, every young person that scraped money together, bought their dream of a home. When they retired, they cashed in on their home. And today, is it a disaster of something we never thought would happen? Would you comment on that?
Yes, well, 250 years ago, the comment would be from Thomas Jefferson. He says, I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. They create inflation, deflation, then the corporations that come under their auspices, they have the kids, they put the kids out of their home of the continent that their fathers conquered. It is more relevant to today than it was 200 and some years ago, because the banks have not given the money to the people. The people voted, and the government gave the taxpayers money to put the banks out of the crack. But the banks didn't reciprocate and help the people to get out the crack. So they are foreclosing on their homes, and they are not lending them any money. And you find the people are finding themselves with balloon notes where the mortgage is 3 times what the house is worth. And we find themselves in a very hazardous position. I think that we have to do something about that. And even with the so-called return of the economy, every 5 homes is purchased, 1 or 2 of them are from foreclosure. So it's not like it's a real new purchase of a home. So I think that we have to find ways and means to help these people, because the so-called middle class are finding themselves in dire straits. Usually they could have bribed and made people believe by deception and legerdemain that it was the cause of the black people that was going this here, and every time they used the knee-jerk code words, they used them in a manner to make certain that you can find someone to hate or someone to point the blame at. But now we have the white families going to that country trying to find the ways and means. They find themselves in a financial strait. They realize and recognize and appreciate the fact that the banks are not giving them their just due, and all they're saying is pack up and get out, or you will find yourself in the street. This is what we must do, find ways and means to resolve that. Those are the issues that are necessary for the American people, the greatest nation in the world, yet we find ourselves suffering in dire straits.
Mr. King, you talk about jobs, you talk about bank financing. One of the greatest concerns right now is to get people back in their homes, get their jobs. But if the banks will not loan small businesses money to expand, to hire people, we are in the straits right now. You're in business. You know how hard it is out there to get bank financing for business deals. What are we going to do about the small businessman that wants to hire, wants to expand, wants to do right, and can't get loans?
This is the problem. These are the issues. Everything I heard, and this is Super Tuesday, everything I've heard has been nothing but get this man out the White House, rather than what can we think of as a think tank, and what can we think of as collaboratively working together with both sides of the aisles of Congress and the Senate and the President of this country to find ways and means to try to help in this situation of dire straits, and use that ingenuity for the betterment of America. America is the greatest nation in the world. Why? Because it has a constitution. We the people. And so when you say we the people, a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. One land, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us make that come true. That means that each for all and all for each. Let us find ways and means to help those who are in dire straits. And as you know, take it to the prophet Amos. Prophet Amos said, let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. He said, I have been anointed by the Lord, to care for the poor. You know what I mean? So this is what we must be able to deal with. I don't hear anything about poor people other than they have a safety net. I don't hear anything about helping them other than let's get the guy out of office. Let's think of ways and means of building America with friendship, unanimity, and zeal, constricting all negativism to its narrowest form. Let us work together, and working together works.
Hey, Mr. King, let me ask you. Today, everybody is afraid that we're watching the gas pumps go up by the minute. Every minute, every hour of the day, we're going up 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents to pretty soon in the middle of Florida right now. I think it was $6 a gallon today in the Orlando area. What are we going to do? Why should they keep going up? And what would you advise if you were the presidential candidates? What could they say to help in this situation?
Tell the people the truth, that they can't do anything about that. Let's find ways and means for alternative ways, but let's don't give it lip service. This is no time for lip service. This is time for life service. This is a great country, and what made it great is its people. And so what we have to do as a people is to come together and let our voices be heard. We must be able to deal with the leaders that we send to Congress, since we are governed by the consent of the governed. And when they don't do what we think that they should do, then we should recall them, just as the mayor was recalled down here in South Florida. It's a thing here that you must be able to deal with what is real and practical. So we got to be able to work toward finding ways and means for alternative things, but that's not going to help the immediate process right now and the ever-present now. But it can make ways and means to find if we can keep you working, that will halfway solve some of that, because at least you'd have an income. But not to have an income, be foreclosed on your home, then you can't even go look for a job because the gas is going up over and over and over, and you ain't got no money to buy the gas. You're in real deep trouble. So what we got to do is find ways and means to get people to work, find ways and means to put pressure on the banks to give some relief to these mortgages and reduce these atrocious interest fees where they find the people having mortgages 3 times worth the net worth of the house when the appraiser comes. So it's a thing about coming together collectively, worrying about each other, and being a part of a better America that we so desire, and making it happen by working together to make it happen.
And this is what you feel on the gas prices with the major oil companies. They're making billions of dollars. We have a surplus of oil, and yet we're going up on the pumps. What do you say?
They need to go out and do the drilling that they're doing in America. America has a lot of natural resources. Find ways and means to do that. Experts should be the ones that be called upon to do that, but at least we can give them a vote of confidence, the ones that's in the administration, to make certain that they will not keep running up against a brick wall of party politics. John F. Kennedy said many years ago that sometimes party loyalty asks too much. We must be able to deal for what's best for the American people, not what is best for the party. It is people first and party second. And if we put that in mind, that we, the people, and we demonstrated that in our election of the first African American to ever be elected in the history of this country, that was a vote for America. That is applauded for the American people, because it could have never happened without the American people. And so I don't look at it as a vote of confidence for Obama. He's the leader. I look at it as applauded for the greatest nation in the world, and the people who had the foresight, the integrity, the courage to go out and to elect somebody that they said was not electable. And I think this is something that everyone should remember, and the cry should be, remember Iowa. Remember Iowa. Just as we say, remember the Alamo, when 189 men fought for freedom and gave General Sam Houston an opportunity to get him an army and in San Jacinto to win and take over Santa Ana. The cry, remember Iowa, which gave Barack Obama his first win, and then several wins behind that, changing the atmosphere of voting for the pigmentation of the skin, but going for the content of the heart and character. And this is what we must do as Americans: put aside our differences, come together and work for the betterment of the whole, which is ourselves. When you vote for yourself, you are going to help yourself. When you let someone else manipulate your vote, you're going to find out that you're voting to your own detriment.
Mr. King, I know that you have spent a lot of time in the Mideast, and you have a lot of friends in the Mideast, and you've done phenomenal putting a lot of the countries on the map through HBO and boxing. But let's talk about a little bit first in a two-part question. Number one, the Mideast. McCain yesterday said that we should give air support to Syria. There's 750,000 people dying over there. It's getting worse. What do you feel we should do, and is there an answer for that? And then when you get through, we'll go to the second part of Iran and Israel. But let's talk about the Middle East and Syria right now.
Well, I think that, when you're talking about war, St. Thomas Aquinas says that war, you have to have the three prerequisites. One is the sovereign, one is a just cause, and the other is a good intent. If you meet that criteria, then you can talk about doing something with war. But the fact of the matter is, we just got out of a war. What do we want another war for? And a war, I think we should exhaust every means possible and to try to bring peace accord between Israel and Iran. Moshe Dayan, the Jewish leader, said the only way you can get peace is by talking to your enemies. And so I echo that, because he's talking the right kind of talk. Shimon Peres, who made me the honorary ambassador for Israel for peace in the Middle East, along with the ambassador Ari Savir, the thing is to find ways and means to get an accord. If something happens when you're talking about war, you want to have another third world war. From the Second World War to the Third World War. It ain't nothing you want to go into very, expeditiously without thinking and really going to exhausting every means of not that you can for peace. Peace in the Middle East would be the most advantageous and the best thing we could have. We know, everybody knows that we support Israel. You know what I mean? Because they're right, be able to live, and we are very familiar with the Holocaust. I've been to all of them, from Auschwitz to Dachau to Krakow to Poland, to Mauthausen, and I've seen with my own eyes, the horrors of the Holocaust. But the fact of the matter is, when you talk about, it won't be just an isolated event between Israel and Iran. You don't know what the rest of the world is going to do and who's going to be with who. And if we can avoid that, let us try to find ways and means for peace, because we do not want motherless children and children without mothers, fathers without sons and daughters. You know what I mean? When you start that killing, millions of people will be dead on the vanity and ego under the auspice of I'm doing the right thing that is just and I'm protecting myself. I think that we have to think about that. At the end of the day, we must do what we must do. So whatever people that's calling for war, you know what I mean, I hope they would have another thought and rethink and then find ways and means to where there's no other way left to go before you go into that type of a situation again. And I think that that's what will, I think that truth will prevail. William Cullen Bryant said the truth crushed the earth will rise again. Thomas Carlyle said no lie can live forever. They both were right. Let us find ways and means to try to resolve the problem rather than to exacerbate it.
Mr. King, one of the concerns with Iran, and I listened to the Prime Minister last night on Fox TV, Iran has demonstrated, number one, they say there was no Holocaust. You know there was a Holocaust. You visited all the camps. Number two, they're saying that he actually listed, the Prime Minister of Israel listed every time Iran did killings of our own military, bombings, threats, supported all the different factions. What would happen if they had a nuke today? And it was in the hands of people that are irresponsible like that. Look what they've done without the nuke. If they had the nuke, would they annihilate Israel? Would they annihilate the United States? Would they be a threat? And how do you control it? Because it would be too late.
Well, I think it was Henry David Thoreau who said, we outlive our means. Our culture is not catching up with our means, some to that effect, which means, that we have advanced so far on one side of life and not enough on the other side of life, so that we find ourselves in a position where we will have people with missiles, and we do not need no misguided emotionalism. You know what I mean? So it's a thing here is to try to seek ways and means to do that. And when you clarify how things are done and what they do, then you have a better insight into what they are. But you must remember that Hitler in 1933, in April the 1st, he put a boycott on all the Jewish purchases and goods. 3 or 4 days later, a week later, he came up with 400 Jewish codes, which absolutely took away the rights of all the Jewish citizens. Everything that was stripped of anything and everything that had rights on it for freedom and liberty, it was taken away. The same thing happened to us as African Americans here in America with the black codes, where you be legally re-enslaved, by order. So the thing to do is to try to find ways and means to resolve that, to get the world stage, to find out what it is, and this is in the hands of the politicians, in the hands of the people who are running it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have no other choice to do, you have to do what you have to do. But the fact of the matter is, propaganda, propaganda, Hitler says if you give him an opportunity and he will make heaven hell and hell heaven by the big lie technique, repeating it and repeating it and repeating it until you convince the masses that the lie becomes the truth. So we got to understand that there's a lot of propaganda that's going on and a lot of tension that's going on, that people are saying things that will be incendiary, so that you will go out and you will react. And when you react, then they have you where they want. So what we have to do is find out if these are facts. Not just propaganda. Check that out. Find out and deal from the facts. The weak-minded person, he prejudges. The strong person, he post-judges. He gets the facts. So let's find out what the facts are, and then let's act accordingly.
Okay, let me ask you, Mr. King, one of the great other big concerns of the American people is the U.S. borders. we're seeing right now, our costs are going up in Texas, our costs are going up in California. Anyone that lives along the Mexican border right now, it's just out of control with drugs, with gangs, with illegal people coming in. What can we do? How are we going to stop this?
Well, you got to go back to the cause. Well, we have a tendency here in America to treat the effects rather than the cause. You know, the immigration laws, as I see them, in my humble opinion, is an extension now of the fugitive slave law of Millard Fillmore in 1850. What you have done is you can profile and grab people that are Latino descent, and then do whatever you want with them without a bill of attainder, without a writ, without a warrant. You know what I mean? And so you find out what it was called profiling here in America. You got to be able to go and find out ways and means to deal with the immigration and go back to the cause of what it is, to the drawing board, a restructure of what it is, and find out how it can be dealt with, and then deal with it, you know what I mean, even-handedly, right there, and make, you know, whatever has to be done, do it right, where you don't have propaganda saying that you're taking advantage, yet these people are trying to get into the country. But you must understand, America is so great, we are the only country in the world that people try to break into rather than to break out of. And this is what you got to understand. You can't make it so appetizing, you know what I mean, and so beautiful with liberty, freedom, you know what I mean, and justice and equality, you know, things that everybody is wishing for all over the world. And then when they come to seek it, they're going to get it by any means necessary to get in here to do that. Our job will be to find a fair way of being able to separate the wheat from the chaff in order to be able to deal with what is real and be practical, fair, and understanding, empathetic, sympathetic, and commiserate with the plight.
Do you feel we should secure our borders by military, by fences, by how?
Yes, it should have been secure. What you're doing now is finding a means that where it wasn't secure. But naturally, you must secure our borders, the safety of Americans. You have arguments that go that people come in and they take jobs, where they had the same thing when they had slaves here working for free, pitted against our American white brothers, and so they would make our American white brothers hate the slave because he was doing free labor, and that was causing them consternation on what their labor was. And so, while at the same time, the haves will be exploiting them both. So we find that by trickeration and legerdemain, we find ourselves pitting against each other when the system is working for the exploitation of both. The black man dies today, the white man dies on Friday. The same thing, but whatever it is, no matter how hard your condition is better than the black man. This type of supremacist thinking and inferiority and supremacy, white supremacy, is what causes a lot of this here. So what we have to do is we have to go to the drawing board and deal with what is real. Put away the new and put away the old, take on the new. But let us work as Americans, you know, and let us exemplify those profound words: one land, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let us work toward that goal.
Mr. King, there's three more concerns of the American people. We'll just take them in order of the last three. Number one is health care. Number two is Medicare and seniors. And the last is education. So let's go with health care today. It's been an issue since Carter, since Clinton. Everybody's had different programs. Today, there's so many people that don't have health care today. And it's sad. We're the greatest country in the world. As you say, we need to take care of our people. What should we do?
Well, the biggest enemies of our nation is poverty and ignorance. When you don't know something and you haven't been enlightened and have a consciousness about it, then you are misled. And when you're misled, you're only doing what you have been taught to do, what your father been taught to do, what his father's father been taught to do. And so you cannot deal with that type of thinking anymore. You got to be able to deal with what is real for the betterment of the nation. The aged must be taken care of. We need a health plan for all Americans They keep arguing about what the money going to cost, where the money going to come from. Wherever it comes from, you ain't going to be around to find out what it is. And to the poor person, it makes no difference. If Phaedrus says to the poor is just an exchange of who the master would be. You know what I mean? It's not about what condition or what they would do. So being poor and having poverty, you know what I mean, then dealing with, you know what I mean, what is real out there, ignorance and not knowing what it is, and so you just go out and rush pell-mell into anything that you told to do to make certain that you are, I'm going to hate this guy, I'm going to hate him, he's the cause of it. Everybody pointing the finger of blame. And so what we got to do at the meantime, while we're pointing the finger of blame, the older people who made the way for us to come behind, I happen to be one of the older ones, they are left out and kicked to the curb. We need a medical program or a health care thing, irrespective and irregardless of what these people are saying, and this is what they're going to do. All that is political mumbo jumbo. The fact is, when you are sick, you need health care. If you are a drowning man, you need somebody to throw you some relief or a life raft to get you out of the ocean, not talk about, look, he's drowning. Now, what we should have did is had an insurance policy that would be able to bring a helicopter over and throw a life raft out for this man. He needs to be saved. Then you can deal with what is real. But what we're doing is we are fooling ourselves, saying that we don't need no health care, and this is wrong, and this one is calling a shot, and the lobbyist is doing their job, looking out for their big companies with the super PACs and everything else, and the health care for the aged and the Medicare. All of them is going down the drain while we all are discussing and debating and arguing about what this should be and that should be, and the people that's laying there not getting their health care. We must take care of our aged. We must. There is no question, unequivocally, without a question of a doubt. You know what I mean? But all of these different ways that the politicians are coming up and saying this is wrong, that is wrong. And I was so proud of Olympia, the senator that just resigned. She said that it looked like there's going to be nothing in sight for any type of working together between the parties. And so there's no need of me staying here. I'm going to retire. Well, you know, at least she came out with honesty and candidness. And you got to understand that these people must help the people that put them there. And so when you talk about the American people, all the American people, every race, color, creed, and religion, this is something we must adhere to. This is something we must be a part of. This is the greatest nation in the world. We are the lamp of freedom, justice, and equality, even though we don't practice it. We are a lamp that everyone is looking to for the light that shines around the world, that this is what it should be. So let us step to the plate now and rise above the fog and do what we should do. Make those majestic words come to living reality in the cosmic universe, as well as right here with us. A new nation conceived in liberty, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, and let us help each other, all for each and each for all.
Fantastic. Let me ask you, Mr. King, where the baby boomers have come. The seniors today are in the majority. Everyone's after their vote. The candidates are spending time going around to condos and to retirement centers, and they're all after the senior vote. And the seniors are very concerned. The seniors are concerned about Medicare. They've worked all their life, and we owe to take care of them. And I know you've preached this. Talk a little bit about Medicare and the seniors and what you feel the candidates should be doing for them.
The candidates should be doing everything humanly possible to talk about ways and means to help those who have helped them. They have been out and lived their lives. They have paid their money. They have paid their dues. They have struggled through one crisis after another. And the reward should be, you know, that we recognize and appreciate and honor them. I think it's important that we understand that people are people, but those who are the aged, you know what I mean, we must have a special place in our hearts for them, because they are a part of this great nation called America, and a very integral part because they paved the way to get us where we are today. And so now for us to be coming on with them, let's at least look out and take care of them to make certain that they have a good life in their evening of their lives, you know what I mean, so that they can be comfortable and feel safe that they will be taken care of, especially by the beloved nation of the people, you know, that they have been such an integral part of. And I think these are so vitally important that we do this, and we must also take care of our veterans, and we must take care of our armed services, the vanguard of our nation, who put themselves in harm's way for the protection of our liberties and our freedom. I am so proud to know General David Petraeus. I am so proud to know people, General Turner, and then the everyday men and women who put themselves in harm's way to go out and protect the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy today. They are the vanguard of our nation, but yet when they come home, they find themselves in distress. They can't get jobs. They can't be taken care of. We boast all of the different platitudes and plaudits, you know, about how great they are, what sacrifices they're making, how wonderful they are, and how we love them. And then when they come back from the battlefront, they find themselves in a quagmire of frustration. You know what I mean? They need help. And so we got to start practicing what we preach. We must look out for those soldiers, sailors, and every man and woman in a uniform, because it's the greatest nation in the world. Why? Because them people put themselves in harm's way to keep it that way. The aged, those who are veterans and aged, most certainly should be able to do something for them. And we should be able to give these people homes and help them who have been hurt, as veterans that have been hurt, and find ways and means to give them the moral support, the physical support, and the financial support to give them a good life, and for them sacrificing their life for our posterity and our freedoms and liberties and justice and equality. So I think these are the things that we must have and keep in the forefront of our minds and hearts, and not find excuses how to get out and get into a bureaucratic maze of excuses and prognostications. Let us deal with it immediately, you know, while they are here. Quit promising them pie in the sky when they die. Give them something sound on the ground while they're around.
Now, Mr. King, on the other side, let's go to the other side of the radar screen. We talked about the seniors, we talked about Medicare, health care, but what about the children? What about education? You have preached and you have been right in front to make sure that every child gets an education, and the importance of an education. No matter black, white, Hispanic, whatever, it's important to get a good education. But today, we're cutting programs. We're cutting teachers. Our schools are rotting. Speak out on this and tell us your opinion.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes in what we're doing. We are so budget conscious now after we get so many trillions in the hole. I mean, this is really, it's remarkable. I understand what they're saying, but educate, and re-educate. George Walker Bush, no child left behind. They can say what they will or may. I'm a Republican. I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a Republican. I am for the people. Whoever's the best leader for the people, that's who I'm for. Whoever's for the American people. You know, not the black people, not the white people, but the American people, inclusive of the blacks, the whites, the Latinos, you know, and every race, color, creed, and religion. And so when you deal with this, you got an opportunity to be a contributor to humanity, mankind. You must educate. It's what we have done is the two enemies, as I said earlier, is poverty and ignorance. And poverty and ignorance, when you don't know the consciousness, and that means awareness of how you've been tricked and how you've been duped and how you've been taught hatred. Khalil Gibran said, hate's a dead thing and I will not become a tomb. So they make us fight and hate each other, and while they exploit us both. And so it's the haves and the have-nots, and that is why I subscribe to Occupy. Occupy is vitally important because for the first time, you are threatening structural or reassessment. That is something we have had coalitions and we've had broad coalitions and groups that have come in with vested interests. Each one have their interest, but we all work together for the betterment of the whole. Now, what we have is, but that same group would never reassemble for a structural change. Occupy has been saying they don't want 1% to own everything and make the decisions for 99%. And that's what it is. And so it ain't the white people or the black people. It is the system that permits these type of unjust situations to go on. So what we must be able to do is to change the system. Occupy has planted the revolutionary seeds of structural reform. We are outdated in our system. You know what I mean? And so what we have to do is not keep giving it Band-Aid treatment. We boast the self-evident truth, but we live the self-evident lie. So we must be able to reconcile the rhetoric to the self-evident truth. You know what I mean? And so in so doing, we will find ourselves in a different position altogether. So what I'm saying very succinctly, what's the difference of owing another trillion if we got all the people working and being fed while we try to reduce it from whatever the trillions is that we owe? The other trillion is being used to feed the people, give them jobs, make them, and keep their dignity intact, their stature, their esteem, and have the banks to be able to utilize that banking institution for the betterment of the community. And that way, with everybody working and everybody having the energy in unanimity, we will be able to take away and amortize the whole amount. If it's 13 trillion or 14 trillion, you will be able to amortize it all and balance the budget. But don't keep talking about balancing the budget when the patient is dying. If he did this, that, or the other, he would be alive. Well, let's give him the substance to keep him alive. And so I would declare job work or WPA or whatever it could be that's in the power of the government to do. That's what I would do. Give these people an opportunity to save their homes, to reclaim their homes, to have the aged taken care of. And so we be in more debt. So what? You know, you're in debt in and now up to your neck. So what's going to change anything if you having all your people working? Because if you go to war, God forbid that we do, then that's going to be a unifying force, but you're going to also be a decimating force. You know what I mean? So now, if we can call on those same people that we done made homeless, those same people that we done made jobless, them same people that we have not taken care of that were veterans from the other wars, everybody that has contributed something, but now because we say we're at war, then all of y'all come. You know what I mean? Even though we have kicked you to the curb, we've had, without compunction or remorse, now come on, pick up the gun. It's time to fight for liberty. It's time to fight for our great nation called America. That don't sound right. If we're going to fight, let us fight for the underprivileged, the downtrodden, and denied. Let us fight for our veterans who put themselves in harm's way. Let us fight for our soldiers who put themselves in harm's way. Let us fight for the aged who showed us the way. Let us fight for our country, for the upward mobility and elevation of this great nation with unity, solidarity, and togetherness. We can do it. They can't stop us because working together works. But don't kick the old to the curb. Don't uneducate the youngsters and the kids that you are building, because when you do that, you are not preparing for them to take over when the time that you have to leave. So we got to find ways and means to help our people educate, and re-educate, and find ways to put people back to work. Even if it calls for another trillion, let's spend the trillion on ourselves, and then let's deflate and let's amortize the whole debt with everybody working, everybody praying, everybody staying together.
That's fantastic. Only in America, that was phenomenal to give us your viewpoint, your political viewpoint on the 10 main concerns of the American people. But let's end by you giving, what advice would you want to give the 4 Republican presidential candidates after Super Tuesday what would you advise them they should do, how they should portray themselves, what they should address, and what the American people want to hear?
Well, let me say this. First of all, George Walker Bush had the most diversified cabinet in the history of this nation. He made it possible for Obama to go into the White House because he proved without a question of a doubt that black people could handle themselves adroitly, and he appointed Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice for the security and protection of our nation. She as the security advisor, he as the Secretary of State, and he did it with open heart. Don't you think that he didn't catch hell with the conservative part of the party, where he would put black folks in a position of making these type of decisions to acquit themselves in the manner that they did remarkably. Rod Page in education, you know what I mean, and all of the different things there. Alfonso Jones in HUD. I mean, the man demonstrated. This is something that I think that America must understand. And so now, when America voted, America put Obama into the White House. That was their vote, because that's the one time the American people spoke, and they overrode all of this strategies and the different type of schemes and plots and machinations, because we were in dire straits, and this was the best candidate for America. Now we can't allow ourselves to be duped again and go back to the age-old way of doing things and find ourselves in a quandary and that we have been detrimental to ourselves. So the candidates that are running, run as hard as you can, but let's not sell the same old story again of the strategy, you know what I mean, of not the issues confronting the American people, but the idea that you can't have this person or that person because of this reason or that reason not in the game. And everything is to blame for the Johnstown flood, the World War II, the Lindbergh kidnapping, everything that is wrong. But the idea of what we're doing here is you got to understand God gave David a slingshot and 5 stones, and he slew Goliath. Now God gave Obama a group of people, Americans, of all the people that was there, and out of that group of people, they slew Osama bin Laden. You know what I mean? So he was a threat to America. So you got to be able to understand, give this country the credit. Remember Iowa. Iowa is where it was begun, and history should recall this, because this is the first time in the history of this nation that they took it into their own hands to put a person into the White House that was heretofore and still stereotyped, lazy, lethargic, can't rise to the occasion, all lie, cheating, steal, shiftless, worthless, no account, heathen, savage, odious to the body politic. You got to applaud this nation. This is the greatest nation in the world, because that was the stereotype image of blacks in America. Yet now we got one as the most powerful man in the world due to the great magnanimity of the great American people, white and black alike, standing up and being accounted for. This is a proud moment, and the rest of the world recognizes it, and they appreciate this here. And what you got to do is to take the glory of what you have done and to make it work for everyone concerned for the betterment of this nation. Let's don't go back to the Moors, the ancient Moors of barbarism, you know what I mean, and the year, and that's what I was hearing when I was listening to the candidates. There wasn't a George Walker Bush, you know what I mean? It was a difference altogether. And rather than to make accusations, let's don't play the cards that have been what has happened to our nation for the last 200 or 300 years. Let's not be in that category. Let's be in that category of remember Iowa. You know what I mean? One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. America, the greatest nation in the world. God bless America. God bless our President Obama. God bless the American people. And God bless each and every one of you that is listening wherever you are. This is the greatest nation in the world. Let's make it work. Come and help us. If we got a fault, let's try to resolve it. If we got something we do, if we stumble, pick us up, dust us off, and put us back into the game. Don't step on us, and let's don't accuse and point the finger of blame. Let's extend the hand of friendship, and do unto others as we would have others to do unto us. And when you do that, you've got Matthew 7:12 and Matthew 5:14 is 5:4 is 17 or something where they say you give you a little light. If you get a light, you don't put it under the table, under a bowl. You put the light on top of the table and let your light shine so others can come. That's in Matthew. So you got to understand that we are here in a land that is the greatest country in the world. Let's keep it that way. Let's make it that way. Let's help it to be that way. And let's educate ourselves about our country so that we will know what our country means to us. And then we can recognize what it means to the world.
Mr. King, I've got one more thing I've got to ask on behalf of the American people. You have been the greatest ambassador to peace. The last 40 years of your life, you've been honored by the heads of state from China to Russia to Israel to Mexico, all over the world. And today, we need people like you because the image of the United States is confusing to the rest of the world. And yet, through you as an ambassador of sports and peace, you have raised the eyebrows, been on the red carpet, got standing ovations in almost every country in the world. What do you plan on doing in the next couple of years to help America with its image through Only in America, Don King, and through boxing and sports to help America?
I live for the day that all people are clothed in dignity. In my life and my job is to promote the greatest nation in the world and the people that are the great leaders of this world that are concerned about the people, tried, tested, true leaders. We have young people, and we have one in Congress now with Senator Harry Reid, and another one in Missouri named Senator Claire McCaskill. These are people who care about the people that they represent, and we need to get the coalitions and bring these people together to make things happen for them, to all of the people. Bring them all together and work for the betterment of this great nation. You know what I mean? We got to be able to, it had a song, you give a little, take a little. That's the story of, that's what makes the glory of love. So we got to be able to demonstrate that love with this great nation called America. Not when we die and they give you a eulogy and they talk about how great you was. Give them some of that love while they're around, and maybe they won't die as quickly as they do. So I think that we got to be able to work toward a better America when all people are clothed in dignity and live up to that Constitution and remove the symbols of that Constitution that would further enhance the things that keeps us separated and pointing our fingers at each other, such as the 3-5 compromise. So we will talk again on that, but I want all of the Americans to understand that it took 5 black people to make 3 whole human beings, and this was the method of the South to be able to get the votes in the House of Representatives, even though the blacks couldn't vote. The blacks weren't citizens, but they would use them in a computation that would enable them to keep the reactionary South in that peculiar institution, which was directly and inconsistent with freedom, justice, and equality, and to be able to endure and go along with that and make it legal and make it be supported. It is something that we need to change. Now, they will all come at me and say the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. The 13th Amendment removes involuntary servitude. The 14th Amendment is equal rights and equal protection under the laws. The 15th Amendment in 1870 was the amendment for to give the slave the right to vote. But you knew they were confused because they gave the slave the right to vote before they gave the white woman the right to vote. So you got to understand we must make adjustments to this here because it took Elizabeth Cady Stanton to go out fight with Frederick Douglass, a black man, looking for women's rights in this great nation called America. And in 1920, they got the right to vote. So we got to be able to understand voting is a great tool. It's a franchise and enfranchisement that gives you a right to change things if you utilize that vote and know about that vote and what you are voting for, not voting for your save, for your self-destruction, but voting for the building of the greatest nation in the world. So let's clean up our thinking. As they said in Revelation 16, behold, I make all things new. Former things are passed away. Let us take that lead and go with what's coming up and what we have to deal with, and let's correct whatever we have done, and let the past bury the past, but let us use it as an instrument for moving on. Cicero says if you don't know your history, you really don't exist. You're like a child that don't exist. So I'm saying to you, my fellow Americans, I love each and every one of you, every race, color, creed, and religion, and working together work. Let us work for the betterment of our great nation called America. And you called the shot here, so let us do it together. God bless America.
You want to say to the veterans and the viewers to say hello to all of them. And I also want to ask you, you're Mr. Boxing. You're the legend. You're the whole sport. You made boxing what it is today. How have you seen, and how can we use, and I know that you set up a program in Israel with the Palestinian children. You explained on TV to the Jewish people what you're doing in Israel to help Palestinian kids and Israeli kids through sports learn to play with each other and not to hate each other, because you got to break that cycle. Share with us some of your thoughts of how sports and boxing and all the sports fans of the world have brought people together as a tool for peace and understanding.
Sports is a great catalyst, but when you mention that the great man, Shimon Peres, is one of the most far-reaching, brilliant geniuses that I've ever met. Because in the heart of all of this unrest, where people have been taught to hate each other for thousands of years, he has the Peace Center. And in that Peace Center, he has Palestinian kids, and he has Jewish kids working together, playing together, learning about each other, even though they have to go back home to the vociferous hatred that is being spewed to them. I think this man, he deserves the Congressional Medal of Honor for above and beyond, services beyond and above and beyond the call of duty. I have bared witness to this in his Peace Center in Israel, and I've seen him working tirelessly in working toward peace, you know what I mean? And I think this is the type of thing that we got to try to work toward, find ways and means, because, you know, it should be able to have two states that coexist and to be able to work together. But sports brings a lot of this to the fore. Entertainment and sports brings people together. And that catalyst is something that we got to keep perpetuating until we permeate the country with glad tidings rather than with hostility, divisiveness, you know, with the hatred, you know what I mean, with bigotry and discrimination, segregation. We got to be able to work toward unity, solidarity, and togetherness, and working toward the betterment of our nation, not name calling and finger pointing, but by embracing with friendship and love and understanding the Proverbs and 4, wisdom and understanding. You know, and so you got to be able to live with that. And it's almost like what Machiavelli says about the lion. If the prince says he knows how he can be a beast, but the lion and the fox, he said, in the fable of the lion and the fox, the lion cannot find the traps that he may fall into and be knocked out of the box. And the fox, he can't fight off the wolves that are coming after him when he's out there running around. So you need to have the lion who can run off the wolves and the fox who can recognize the traps. And you got to put them all together. And you know what I mean? And work together so that everybody get a part and parcel. And everybody has a part to play. John Donne said, no man's an island entirely to himself. every man's a member of the continent and a part of the main. And then he goes on to say, therefore do not sin for whom the bell tolls. The bell tolls for thee. He said, every man's death diminishes me because I'm involved with mankind. And so we must be able to be involved, to be able to deal with what is real, and to make America better. America is 3 eras in history that have been marked that everyone can have to deal with. That is the Old Testament of Israel. That is the Greek era, when the Greek was there. And the third is the Constitution of the United States, a profound document with majestic words that has cosmic relevance. You know what I mean? The art of justice bends is long, but it bends towards justice. Whatever the art is that I'm trying to get my mind collectively as it runs down. But the universe of doing good. So what we have to do is to make certain that we as Americans recognize and appreciate the standing that we have in the world, the appreciation that we have in the world, and how they look up to us everywhere in the world, even though they had crowned us with hypocrisy, which was just. You know what I mean? But now let us remove that hypocrisy and fulfill our promise. You know what I mean? This is a great nation, and I'm just so very proud to be an American, and I'm so very proud, appreciative, and humble to be able to speak to you.
I'm Robert Winnick, and I want to thank Don King, Only in America, for your viewpoints tonight on Super Tuesday, and for addressing the American people from the heart of what you believe. Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you, Robert, and God bless America.